What's up, Alabama fans, and welcome to the BOL show. I'm BamaOnLine publisher Tim Watts, and of course, with me is my partner in crime, Andrew Bone. He's our recruiting editor and team contributor and our basketball expert. We have
None
a
of
lot to talk. We have a
none of,
lot.
none of those.
That's true. Oh for 3. I'm trying to show him love because I like him. I like his hat, nondescript black hat. Got a ton to talk about. It doesn't feel like it because it's the bye week, but obviously we'll touch a little bit on South Carolina, what's going on with recruiting. Basketball starts Monday. You're about to have a home stretch with 3 games in a row, which I know the Tide staff will be happy. We're 2/3 of the way into the season, if you can believe that. So 4 games left to go. Andrew, you wrote a good story. We're going to start here this morning. Your recruiting notebook on things that are happening. We knew Bear Fretwell, the offensive lineman from Georgia, took a visit to Georgia Tech. Kind of give us an update there because Bear at one point was committed to Georgia Tech before he flipped to Alabama.
Yeah, so it was kind of unexpected. We talked to Bear about a week ago. He said he wasn't taking any more visits or anything like that, and maybe the visit to Georgia Tech wasn't really that big of a deal. We had heard that he had gone with some teammates, so getting back over to Atlanta to see Georgia Tech play. Probably not that big of a deal. You want to kind of continue to see him in Tuscaloosa. He says he's going to be at every single home remaining home game. Took his official 2 weekends ago for the Tennessee game, and he says he'll be back for all the others. So LSU, Oklahoma, and the Eastern Illinois. So I'm sure Alabama's had a little bit of a conversation with him since that trip, and they'll have a little bit more of a conversation and sit down when he makes the trip back next weekend. But as of right now, not really looking too deep into it. Talked to some people and said that everything seemed pretty good on that front with Fretwell. Now, Alabama currently has 4 offensive line commitments. Recently got the commitment from Jared Doty, another Georgia native. That's 3 Georgia offensive linemen in Alabama's recruiting class this year, in addition to Sam Utu from California. But and we talked about it earlier this year. They would probably be fine with just taking 3, but they've got 4. I think those are the 4 that are going to sign with Alabama. But you also don't want to see Fretwell potentially go back to Georgia Tech again, because that's a school that believed in him first. They offered him first. Committed. He was committed for a while. Then Bama came through, offered him, and flipped there. But obviously Georgia Tech still working, and their success this season, they're hoping that sort of pays off for them.
Yeah, the one thing about this, as we've talked about, is the cycle has changed so much, the calendar, that a lot of these guys don't get a chance to take visit. But it wasn't long ago where a couple of the Bama commitments were at the Georgia-Alabama game. I'm still a believer with the day of the portal. I know you are too. You got to let them take visits if they want to take visits. That's not an egregious one. That's pretty much a local trip for him. So not a huge surprise that he popped up, other than we thought he probably wasn't expecting to. And again, you could talk him into on a Friday night or a Saturday morning, come over here, hang out with your friends. I think he has friends there and stuff like that. But let's switch over to Nolan Wilson, who's going to Auburn. Now, we kind of knew this visit was happening. We knew earlier in the year when he committed, covered his commitment. He's close with Freddie Roach. We had 2 schools we thought he would visit. Auburn was one, and the other was Miami. So he's expected. Now, this is Friday. He's still got time to change his mind, and he's done that in the past. But he's expected to go to Auburn Friday. And tell us the circumstances around him taking that visit.
Yeah, with Nolan being a top 100 guy that has taken another trip, gone down to Miami earlier this year. A lot of people probably look at it as maybe he's a little bit more open, than led on to believe. But I don't really see that being the case. He hasn't taken any of these trips with his family. He's not going with his family to Auburn this weekend. I talked to one of his main recruiting coach that takes him on the road a good bit. He said, this is a weekend that his recruiting coach's son actually plays at Kentucky. He's one of the running backs for Kentucky that plays a significant amount, and also his nephew is as a defensive lineman for Auburn. So you got 2 guys that come from Nolan Wilson's high school that he's friends with, that he's been friends with for a long time. They're playing against each other in Auburn this weekend, so they're taking the trip over to Auburn. Obviously, Auburn's been a school that has been in the contention for Nolan for a long time. He took an official visit there back during the summer. They were one of his top schools, but I don't think Auburn's a school that we've been too concerned with up to this point. Does things potentially change with a conversation this weekend? You never know, but I'm not really looking at this as a worry weekend for Alabama with Nolan Wilson to going over to Auburn. Now, if he goes back over there with family, sits down with them again, then you start to worry a little bit, what's going on. But I don't really see this as anything more than just going over for a game, having some free tickets, going with his coach, and seeing two of his former teammates play against each other.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is when these guys let the staff know they're going, and look, there's been a myth that they don't want them to take visits and all that stuff. Bama staff has not been trying to keep people from taking visits. I mean, and again, in the day of the portal, you can enroll in December and then be gone in January in that portal window. We've seen that happen. We've seen guys sign and leave quickly at other schools. So you want them to be happy with where they're at, and you have to have a trust. Yeah.
Keep going. I'll jump in after you.
Like, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say
anything that important.
It's not that big of a deal if you go to one game, but if you continue to go back, and we saw that last year with Caleb Cunningham. After the first visit, Alabama said, no big deal. But then he went back a second time. Well, they started paying a little bit more. Yeah. And then a third time was like, oh, are you flipping or are you not? And obviously he flipped, and Alabama went and pursued Derek Meadows, and they were able to get him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I agree, you got to let these guys, and also you come down to trust and relationships. And we know that Freddie Roach is his guy. That's why he committed there. He turned down a lot more lucrative offers to be at Alabama. But it's recruiting. We understand the ramifications. We're watching it. But right now, it's not something that's head on a swivel. And again, we knew about this for the past couple of weeks. So you confirmed it with some good information. Bama, for the most part, so we've been discussing this on the roundtable. That's the BamaOnLine.com message board, which is a heated discussion day in and day out if y'all haven't tried it. And again, you can try us for $1 for 1 week if you want to check us out. And Andrew will have a better sales pitch later on. But we have a lot of good discussion there. And right now, I think there's we haven't actually worded it perfectly. But Bama, for the most part, with their rev shares, kind of done with this class unless something – pops up unexpected. But that doesn't mean they couldn't take other guys. Scholarships still matter. Believe me, I have a son I'm paying to go to Alabama, although he did receive scholarship. But it costs money. It'll save you, Andrew's a parent, it'll save you a good $150,000, to get that free scholarship. But there's a couple of guys that are looking at it. Andrew, let's talk about Amari Saab, who's still a guy out there. Obviously, Keon's brother has a big-time brother in the 2027 class. He's been a regular visitor there. Alabama's still in discussions with him.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, these are two guys that Amari and Xavier. They've been to Tuscaloosa several times. Xavier's in that 27 class, 5-star, but Amari's going to be making that decision. Obviously pretty soon. And there's some schools that have been high on his list, including Alabama and Oregon. And with Amari, this is a kid that can play on either side of the ball. He's an athlete. He can play defensive back, can play wide receiver. I think Alabama basically would take him as an athlete. I think we'll learn a little bit more about where things stand with him next month. In the coming weeks, they're both supposed to be back in Tuscaloosa for the Eastern Illinois game. So that gives an Eastern Illinois game is a lot different than an LSU game, because you do get more time with the coaching staff and with those guys, they're going to be around the program not only on Saturday, but they're going to be in town on Sunday as well. So you get a chance to spend a little bit of an additional time with the coaching staff, kind of figure out what you want to do. So be an interesting visit. But as you said, not a lot of guys that are still out there for Alabama. They're going to bring in another guy. We'll talk about it here in a minute, Samson Gash. But yeah, I mean, Amari Saab is certainly a guy that we're going to continue to watch moving forward. And, having a brother Keon on Alabama's campus, certainly doesn't hurt.
Before we continue, I got an ad we'd like to read for you. Our Brunt Workware ad. You've heard us talking about it every week on the show. All right, listen, whether you're out on the job or cheering on your team this weekend, comfort matters. And that's why I've got to shout out Brunt Workware. These are new Bruntwear boots, and they're comfortable. The second, me and Andrew both put them on now. We tried them. Now, we're not going to kid you that we're out laying bricks or paving roads or anything, but they are extremely comfortable. They were broke in pretty quick. They were easy to put on, very comfortable, and they look good. Football players need reliable gear that performs every play. Some deal on the job. The folks at Brunt built these for real workers, mechanics, construction crews, anyone who needs gear that lasts. The founder, Eric Girard, started Brunt because his blue collar buddies were fed up with brand names that stopped listening and hurt their feet. One of the things you can do, Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So if you need boots, the best thing to do, and there's a special code for you guys for a limited time only, our listeners or our viewers get $10 off at Brunt, BRUNT, when you use code BOL at checkout. Just head to BRUNT workwear.com. Insert the code BOL and you're good to go. And after you order, they'll ask where you heard it about. Do us a favor and tell them it was on the BamaOnLine show, and you will get $10 off. Andrew, one other thing, switching back to the Saab, Keon's a junior. So, I mean, there's got to be some feel, obviously he could go pro. He's a redshirt junior and he'll be looking at his status in that. But there's also, if he comes back, I mean, you're a family. We've seen this with the Castilles and other families. Tua and Talia, having them together is a bigger sales pitch. Let's talking about the wide receiver, Samson Gash. Interesting guy, committed to Michigan State. Blake had a good interview with him. Blake Byler, our young fella with the wild red hair who loves hoops. He had a good interview talking about this visit's going to be very important, not only on the Alabama end, but on his end, but also the Alabama end.
Yeah, Sam. I don't know if he goes by Sam or Samson. Hopefully, Blake asked him when he talked to him.
I have no clue.
His father's actually Sam Gash, who was a fullback in the NFL. Played with the Patriots, won a Super Bowl.
Yes, he did.
Two-time Pro Bowler. But this is a guy that Alabama actually saw during the summer. Came down for football camp. Was actually offered the final high school camp of the summer on June 21st. Now, a couple days later, he commits to Michigan State, and you see all this. He commits to Michigan State over Alabama. Well, Michigan State had been recruiting him for a long time. Alabama had just offered him, so that relationship was really just starting there. And Alabama had taken 2 commitments that day at the wide receiver position in Cedarian Morgan and Owen Cobble. They'd already gotten Brian Williams a week or two earlier. So it's kind of difficult for Alabama to take another wide receiver commitment at that time. Get into the season, kind of see where things were, continue to evaluate them, continue to talk to them. And all of a sudden, now we're seeing an official visit on the LSU weekend. So really intriguing to kind of see how this process is going to play out for him. One of the fastest guys in the state of the fastest guy in the state of Michigan, actually 10.41 in the 100 meters, which set a state record in the state of Michigan this past spring in the 100 meters. So a fast guy, very athletic, and he's a 6 foot, 175 pound wide receiver. Alabama's certainly looking for some additional speed in this class, and this is a guy that they seem to like. Now they had offered another kid this fall, Ja Rogers from Delaware, who just committed to Oklahoma. Now, he had not visited Alabama. They were both supposed to be in town for next weekend, but Rogers is not going to make the trip. Gash is, so we'll see. We'll see how hard Alabama pushes. It's got to, and you talked about it on the message board, Tim. It's got to be a right fit for both sides. It's not just, hey, have a great visit. Commit. Alabama's going to have to sit down, figure things out. Is this a guy that fits our program? Money's always going to be not an issue, but it's going to be a factor in these decisions. You're going to have to sit down and figure out, is the number good for both sides? And if it is, then you push hard and try to get a deal done.
Yeah, we're going to talk about juniors later in the show, but Andrew, let's talk about something we're pretty excited about. 1, 2, 3 home games in a row. What they've done so far with their visitors at the home game's been pretty amazing. But you also get Oklahoma, you get LSU, you get Oklahoma, a little bit more of a cream puff game there, sandwiched between Auburn. No offense to, I think it's Eastern Washington. Did I get the name right? I forget who they're even playing in that week 11. But you're 8 games into the season. You're at the bye week, setting up the table for these final 2. Now, 27 is going to be super important. But 3 games in a row, we're going to talk about the visitors list too. It helps because that lessens the odds of your commitments going somewhere else. Because that's usually this group's been great about showing up, even for games you probably wouldn't be, games you and I probably wouldn't go to. They still come out in droves. But then they got LSU and Oklahoma coming up. And again, a big visitor weekend out of the gate with LSU, a preliminary list. Like you said, at least one official visitor with Samson Gash, but close to 20 commitments. And again, Elijah Haven, a big name, is expected to be here. Just came a few weeks ago, number one quarterback in the 2027 class. We've had some buzz that Alabama leads. So put them near the top. That's a chance to even push a little further ahead.
It's crazy. I started thinking back at, I wrote a story back in August about the games of the year for Alabama, and the top of the list was the Alabama LSU game because I felt like it was going to be, obviously a playoff caliber game, potentially SEC, championship, at least an invite to the SEC championship, clinching a berth. But things change quickly in college football, obviously with probably doesn't have as much hype, but it's still a 6:30 kickoff at Bryant-Denny. It's still LSU. It's still going to be a battle, regardless of what you think. I mean, we see that every single week. And
hey, don't forget the year that LSU rolled into town with a fired coach and 38 scholarship players, and Alabama's out there knocking down a Max Johnson pass to secure a win. So this game is an SEC game. That's a great point.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those fun, exciting atmosphere type games. And I love and hate 6:30 p.m. games because one, we're a little bit older, we got kids, we're you know how it is, and plus we're up all night long on the message board already.
Yeah.
But with the 6:30 kickoff for the fan experience, for the recruiting experience, it's hard to beat for the ones that are in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And recruits also, if you're traveling from all across the country, you can, because you can get on a flight and make it for a 6:30 p.m. kickoff. Instead of getting there for a 2:30 kickoff, it's a little bit challenging. Or if you're driving 5 hours, it's going to be a little bit easier. So there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be on campus. You're going to have a lot of commitments, guys that are going to be coming back. Guys that you don't often see on campus throughout the season. Jaira Edwards, the 5-star safety out of Baltimore, is going to be back in town. Now that's a big visit for him because it's going to be the first visit his entire family is going to be able to come in. He was in for the Vanderbilt game, but that was more for him, and I think he just came by himself. Maybe one of his coaches came, but his family didn't come, so this is going to be his family's first trip down to Bryant-Denny Stadium. So that's going to be exciting for him. Majority of the commitments are going to be on campus, but you're going to have obviously Samson Gash, as we mentioned, going to be there for his official visit. Not a lot of 26. We're not probably going to see any other really 26 targets, but building those relationships, making an impact with that 27 class, and even some of the 28 guys that have been offered, guys that this is going to be their potentially one of their final games before they make a decision next spring or next summer. So these type of games and atmospheres, they have an impact, not as much as financial numbers do, but it does play a role. Hey, I want to play in that type of environment, that type of atmosphere. So it's going to be loud. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun for all these recruits. And you mentioned Elijah Haven. And that's a really intriguing recruitment after getting a commitment from Trent Seaborn. Haven still has Alabama at the top of his list heading into the weekend. Now, I think what I'm going to be watching with him is that LSU hire. I mean, that's an in-state kid, in-city kid, Baton Rouge kid. Does the hire at LSU potentially impact his future decisions? So a lot of big names that are going to be in town, guys that, like I said earlier, haven't been to Tuscaloosa before. This season, Maxwell Hiller, one of the top offensive linemen from the Northeast, going to be down, and I'll have a lot of other kids on campus as well.
Zyron Forstall, who is the number one defensive end, 5-star, top 10 in the country from IMG. And again, this list can change, but what I'm really looking forward to is Monshun Sales, who
that one actually, we got to take that one off the list.
He's not coming this week?
Yeah, so Monshun Sales, a 5-star wide receiver from Indianapolis. He was supposed to be in Tuscaloosa for the game, not going to be able to make it because of his his high school playoff schedule.
That's right. Yeah, you had a mess. You had that.
He might be playing on Saturday, but he's not going to be. He is going to try to make it down to Tuscaloosa at some point, but
because they've been waiting to get him on campus a long time with a nickname like Bama. He's from the same area as Shep. They have a good relationship. But again, this is a moving target list. I mean, we're still 2 weeks out. Even if it was, today's Friday, if tomorrow was Saturday, that list will be changed. But I do think it's going to be a pretty substantial.
It's going to be significant once we kind of get all our ducks in a row. We add names throughout the year because you have, even in September, we started this list in September, and you kind of go through that list every single week, before those games, kind of cross-check, make sure these guys are still coming in. And a lot of them have to cancel because of, obviously different things.
Well, we're in the playoff. We're getting into the playoff area too. Regular seasons are ending. You don't know.
And then you have additional guys that you weren't expecting that all of a sudden are going to be able to make it down because they may have said, yeah, I want to go to the Alabama LSU game, but probably not going to happen. But then 6:30 kickoff gets announced. Hey, I'm going to be able to make it to that game.
Before we move on to college football, I got one more ad to read from you, and it's our friends at Game Time app. Man, it's hard to believe we're 8 games into the college football season. You wait all year and the season just flies by. Alabama fans, there's still 4 games left, and 3 of them are at home. So you still have time to experience the tailgate, the energy, the fans. There's nothing like it. And also basketball is starting on Monday, to throw it in there as well, which is crazy. That's here already. But honestly, the most difficult task of getting tickets is often finding it. The stressful part is getting into endless queues, filling out forms, prices that skyrocket at checkout. The one thing we love at Game Time is it's all in. The ticket price is right there. There's nothing added once you click it and go. Andrew and I have also had to grab tickets, whether it be for us, whether it be for family members. If you need some help, try the Game Time app. It is quick. It is easy. Just open the app, search the game, and within seconds, you'll be scrolling through amazing seat options, some as low as $25. What really surprises us is how clear everything was. The fees, again, are up front. No surprises, no sticker shocks. Get in, get out. And here's a cool feature they've added, zone deals. You choose the section, Game Time picks the exact seats, and you save even more. Plus, they've got a lowest price guarantee. If you find a better price somewhere else, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code ON3 for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and you're on your way. Andrew, football. I mean, everybody's talked South Carolina enough. I think you and I were just kind of amazed. 10 minutes left. Some of the most perfect football in Alabama history. A great drive, finished it off, get a turnover. No sweating a field goal. You know what I mean? Jeremy, just give me a player that you kind of stood out. Everybody's recapped the game, but give me a player that, you mentioned a tight end that certainly deserves more praise than he got. Let's talk about Josh a little bit.
Yeah, loved the way Josh Cuevas played, throughout the game. I mean, he's been a really good blocker for Alabama as well. And I saw 2 really good blocks for him on the final 2 drives. One for Jam Miller on a reception, and then on that final play from Jaron Bernard when he sprung open and scored the touchdown. He came in pretty clutch. I mean, he obviously had the touchdown on the 4th down, the 2-point conversion. And then he also had another big catch on 3rd and 4 on that touchdown drive to tie the game. So I think that he's been an unsung hero for Alabama throughout the season. Blake Byler did a story on BOL the other day, ranking the top 10 players to this point for Alabama. And I added, my own top 10 in our message board thread, and I had Cuevas on there at number 10. Thought that he's been really solid throughout the entire season. When you need a play that somebody that Ty seems to really trust, and when he's given an opportunity, he's certainly done well. I thought him and Blake Dowd were probably my 2.
Blake.
I thought Blake was just outstanding.
Unbelievable.
averaged 55.4 yards per punt. Some clutch punts for Alabama.
Against a very dangerous punt returner.
A guy a mid-season All-American that had returned 3 punts for touchdowns this season. And I saw somebody mention, well, the ball rolled on a few of those. Well,
okay.
They do that. I mean,
not all in the air.
That's what I don't understand. Like you look at the NCAA leader in average. I guarantee you some of his balls roll as well. But footballs. But I thought that he was certainly a game changer for Alabama in that game. And I know we don't want to hashtag too or hash too much on the game, but man, it was as bad as it looked. It was good to get out of there with a W.
Absolutely. Do you know who I really don't think we've talked about enough, and I had to do the rewatch to figure it out, was that last drive. Jam Miller was huge.
Yeah.
8-yard run on first down. But you see on the, that play on the sideline where he just crushed the dude, with the reception. He's really good. He protects the quarterback. And then that play to get to the 2-yard line to set up the game winning touchdown. And also Ryan Grubb stopped showing off. That was some of the best play calling and tie for being clutch. But hey, take it every day of the week. A game you probably felt like Bama could lose at other times. But we're off this week, Andrew. We're off. We're off with the team. They're practicing me, and you're not even practicing. We're sleeping late, not showering. I'm just kidding. Chandler never showers, but he gets up early. So we've got a weekend of football to watch, just to watch football. And this weekend has so many ramifications. The first thing that jumped out to me was to start the year, one of the non-SEC games we circled is this weekend. Yeah. Penn State and Ohio State. I feel like it's lost a lot of its luster.
All of it.
I mean, we were so excited, 2 top 5 teams going at it. So that's a dud, but I'm really excited. Vanderbilt in Texas. I mean, that's one I know. Georgia and Florida. I still think Florida's a dangerous team. Oklahoma and Tennessee. This is an elimination weekend for some teams this week. And you had a great quote on the roundtable. Was it Andy Staples who did the coaches on the hot seat list? And it was Mark Stoops 1 and Hugh Freeze 2. And Andrew just said, it's a big game on the Plains. And I was laughing. I was like, if you're number 1 and 2 on the hot seat and playing, oh boy.
The hot seat game. I mean, this is I will say this. I don't think that either one of whoever loses that game is gone. I mean, if Hugh Freeze loses at home to Kentucky against a really bad Kentucky team, there's no way he doesn't get run out of town. And I guess it was Pete Nakos or somebody for On 3 wrote a story about the the top 10 blown calls of the year or missed calls of the year, whatever it was, and Auburn was like in 3 of the top 6 or whatever it was. And
that's
maybe that buys Hugh some saves him a little bit, but if he gets beat by Kentucky this weekend at home,
that leads me to this question. If Auburn has a coaching change, does Kay Ivey pick the new coach? How does that work out?
Oh my God.
LSU, is that not seriously? We've been around football a lot. We know Louisiana. Is that not the wildest thing you've seen? The governor saying, I'm not letting the AD make the decision. Brian Kelly couldn't get in the building. And all the bad people coming clean about Brian Kelly this week it's been an insane week. And it's even crazier. They were beating a top 5 team at halftime Saturday night.
Yeah, well, you're right. It never seemed like a good fit to us. We talked about it. I mean, we talked about it when he was hired. It just seemed like a weird fit. He did the fake accent to when he first got down there, tried to make a big impression with recruits, and obviously they've done well. But I think a lot of their recruiting obviously has been with they've got some good assistant coaches down there, and LSU's a good program, but NIL and money has certainly helped land some big names down there, but that was just not a good culture fit down there. I mean, they lost their culture fit, and there were some other things that were kind of going on with the Oars run outside of being 5-5. I think 2 seasons in a row, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see who they end up who they end up hiring. But
There's so many openings. There's more. Lane Kiffin literally might get blank check. I mean, our BOL roundtable members are always slinging blank checks. Lane might
who
get.
would have ever thought? I mean, who would have ever thought with Lane? I mean, we like Lane, but you just never knew how much he was going to grow from the time he was at Alabama to to where he is now, to being the hottest coaching name on the job market.
Let's talk about two games before we get out of here. To me, it's the most interesting. If you've got another one, we can. But I'm really interested in this Texas Vanderbilt game. Arch Manning had a concussion last week. Texas goes again to overtime, kind of pulls off another miracle. I almost feel bad for Levy at Mississippi State. They could have beat Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. They're 0 for 3 in those games. But Arch is playing. That lines went from 1.5. Texas is now 3.5. Texas, they lose, they're out. And
Yeah.
Sark, there's going to be some talk there. Vanderbilt loses, certainly behind the 8 ball, because they still have Tennessee and some other games. But who do you like in that one?
I don't know. It's a tricky.
If you don't have a pick, don't go with it. But it's a tough one.
Here's who I'm going to pick. I am going to pick Vandy. That's what I'm going to do in our story. I'm going to pick Vandy. I think Pavia is going to have a good game. I think he'll have a decent game down there, but I think Vandy's. I think their defense can slow them down a little bit, and I don't know. Texas just hasn't been. Now they beat Oklahoma, impressively beat Oklahoma.
Handily, yeah, handily.
So does that team show up in the game? And maybe they do. Maybe they're able to beat Vandy, but if I don't know. It's a tricky game.
Arch really looked good in that fourth quarter coming back from a big lead. If he plays like that, I think Texas will be tough to beat. But I'm with you. I don't have a great feel for it, but I'm excited to watch it where all of our focus can be on other teams of this game.
I do think Pavia's the hype for the Heisman goes up significantly if he goes to Texas.
I mean, he doesn't have the stats to be.
But it's still putting.
I mean, if you're looking at guys of that same comparison, compare him to Haynes King, who nobody talks about. That's saying that Haynes King, who I don't know how Haynes King is still standing. He takes 25 blows a game, and he's a skinny kid. He is the toughest guy. But we'll talk to Heisman later. Last game.
I'd love to see a Georgia Tech Vandy game.
Oh, I don't know if I'd either love it or hate it. I don't know which one it after the game I'd be like, I loved it or I hate it. But last game, Oklahoma going in to see Josh Heupel, who won the Heisman at Oklahoma, I believe. Both teams with 2 losses. Someone's out. Tough game. Tennessee's 3.5. I lean a little bit towards Oklahoma in this one. Although Tennessee's super tough at home, but again, a tough game to pick. You got to feel there one way or the other.
I think Tennessee will win. It's at home. I think they've got, obviously a really good offense. I think they'll be tough to beat at home this weekend. Oklahoma, I don't know. I mean, they look like one of the top teams in the country for a while. They hadn't looked, as great, the last few games, but maybe their defense can shut down Tennessee, because Tennessee's defense can, they can give up some points, and maybe Oklahoma's able to move the ball on them. But I'll go Tennessee in this one.
It's going to be interesting. Tennessee can pressure that quarterback, and I don't know their stats now, but they came into the Alabama game with 28 sacks. They know how to heat it up a little bit. I think that would certainly help Tennessee. Well, Alabama fans, we appreciate y'all turning in on the bye week. I hope you make the most of it tonight. Be safe. Happy Halloween. Have a great weekend for those who are dressing up. If you're on BamaOnLine.com, share some photos. I know Andrew will. He has 2 young ones who will be dressing up, young children who will be dressing up, and hopefully we can get some pictures there. As always, you can try BOL for $1. Give us that like. Andrew, give him that thumbs up. Hit that 2 thumbs. That's better than 1, although one of his thumbs is really afflicted. But, Andrew, get us out of here. You got the best sales pitch.
Well, I know everybody was all excited about the big concert announcement for Bryant-Denny Stadium this spring. Half of you guys are, at least, but I don't really care one way or the other. But cool that maybe they're starting to do some concerts down there. But we always have fun and a live show on BOL every single day. You can come talk to me and Tim and the rest of the gang, and plus thousands of Alabama fans talking everything that under the sun, from the games to cooking to baseball to everything you want to talk about. So come check us out at BamaOnLine.com. Got a lot of great stories on there right now leading up to the LSU game next week. So thank you all for watching or listening to the show today, and we will see you on BOL, and happy Halloween. And happy birthday to Coach Saban.
Very nice. One thing before I forget, for you guys still sticking around, Charlie Blake and I did a basketball preview. Again, it starts Monday. Exhibition season's over. Good basketball preview on this channel. Be sure to check it out. And again, we appreciate y'all. Thumbs up and like us if you enjoy the content. We appreciate your time. Thank you, and roll Tide.